2021, October 24th, 8:35 a.m. Of course, this market is nuts. Let's get right into some quick look at where we at. I'm going to go over just the important ones. The Dow's up 0.44, ESO's up 0.35, Russell's up 0.32, dollar is up 0.28, Nasdaq's basically flat, and let's see, TNX is down 1.14, and crude is down 2.34%. All right, let's look at the SPY. What happened? What happened on Friday, right? So, a couple things just to get everybody caught up on some news if everybody's not aware. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Let's go into some. I can explain it here. Let's go into some leaders and laggards real quick. We got Morgan Stanley up 0.73, Coin up 0.63, Microsoft up 0.61. The laggards, we have Meta down 1.51, Tesla down 2.96, Baba down 11.58%. Okay, the reason why Baba's down and the reason why the market spiked when it opened up in futures and then it took a nosedive is China had its worst day since 2008. It's down. It was down. The Hang Seng was down 6.8%. So they had a huge sell-off in China. Okay, so that's the reason for that. Let's see here. We got Twitter's up 1.28, AbbVie's up 0.8, laggards. I would just really say oil stocks. We got Chevron and Exxon, and CAT, which is an industrial stock. It's down 1.38%. Coming into the sectors, financials and healthcare and industrials are the leaders. Laggards are really just discretionary, which would include Tesla and Amazon. And Tesla also just like cut their prices by 5% after raising their prices in China. So, and we have energy rounding out the laggards. Let's get into the daily chart of the SPY. And that was a little bit of a crazy day on Friday because we were gapping down, and then all of a sudden we spiked higher, right? So we opened here and we spiked higher, finished at the highs basically. And just a little, I'm sure if everybody's up on news, they'll know why we did that. But just to clear that up, why was initially before the market opened, the Wall Street Journal reported that this Nick, called the Fed Whisperer, talked about that there could be maybe a 50-point basis hike in the next FOMC meeting in December, not the one coming up in November. That sent the market higher, and then to top it off, Fed's Daily talked about we might need to start pulling it back because they've been aggressively raising rates, and she talked about, oh, we might need to start pulling back, and then that sent the market higher because they're not talking about a pivot, they're more talking about maybe a pause, because the Fed's been pretty aggressive, so that made the market go higher. And so you can see we took out the last 2 days highs, made a new 2-day high here, didn't take out this one, but made a 2-day high. Okay, and again, we really couldn't get below the 9 daily EMA and the 20 simple moving average. Okay, they acted as support. So that's where we are with the SPY. That's what happened on Friday. Qs is basically broke this trend line here. So holding above it in the Qs. Okay, also could not break the 9 daily EMA and the 20 simple moving average, 20 day. So this week's a big week. A lot of big earnings come out this week. It's like Microsoft. Let's see here. I can pull this up. We have Apple reporting 1027, Amazon on 1027, we have Boeing on 1026, we have Google on 1025, we have Meta on 1026, we have Microsoft on 1025. So big earnings week. All right. And they're going to move the market. So it's going to be probably a wacky, volatile week. Okay. Janet Yellen speaking today as well. And we have GDP numbers coming out on Thursday. So that's kind of what the week's going to look like. All right. You can see the cues here kind of have like this bracket right here, this 266, call it. 265 has been support and hasn't been able to break that. See? Right here, right? And then we have this high that it couldn't take out either. So very interesting. Let's look at the really quickly these levels that I like to look at on the most traded prices in the SPY. All right, so this is the level I said we needed to get above on Friday, 366, 367. See, we came below it and came above it, and then a bunch of short covering happened. Okay. Also, it was OPEX, operations expiration, so a lot of people were taking their puts, closing them, which then market makers and dealers would buy futures back because they no longer need to hedge. That's basically what happened on Friday. So we have to see if we can build value up higher here in the SPY. And the Qs, same story. That was 270, 269. We came above it, short covered, and now we're kind of hanging out up here. Okay. So next destination in the Qs could be this week. Most traded price was 281. So 281 could be the next destination in the Qs. Let me just go back to the SPY and see what that could be. And that would be we're already there. A little different story, right? So we're already there of this week. Most traded price was 376. Right now the SPY is currently at 376. Very interesting, right? So let's look at that TNX. TNX made a high, very interesting too, on Friday. Made a high of 4.3. It was like going crazy until the Wall Street Journal reported that. The Nick, the Fed Whisperer, said that. That sent this way down, and of course what Fed Daily said. So now we're still obviously at 4.1 right now. So that's pretty lofty, push down. So we have to see how this plays out. All right. Let's look at the dollar. Dollar's in a range. Dollar's been in a range. Let's see from here. So it's kind of been in this range from 113 to 111. Okay. So dollar's up slightly today. And we'll look at the VIX. VIX is in a little bit of a downtrend. Obviously, this is the inverse usually. So it's getting a little pop from today, probably with China. We'll have to see. We'll have to keep monitoring that. Okay. Let's move over to futures so I can explain a little more in detail what happened. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me get my trusty tool out so I can mark up some stuff here. All right. Okay. So we broke a bunch of levels on Friday that were key levels, and now the market looks like it's starting to rebound a little bit. Okay. So this is what I was talking about before. Look at how low the overnight low was here into Friday morning. And then we opened here, pushed down, and we just broke that bull bear line that I talked about right here. And once we held above it, like I said, the market went higher with the news catalysts. Okay, and we closed at the highs here with the most traded price here, which is bullish. Okay, so if you look at the composite profile, which we always do, it's completed right now. You got excess at the top, bull bear lines in the middle, and you got excess at the bottom. So now, since we're above the bull bear line, bulls are winning. Okay, and we need to see if bulls can pull this value up here. Can we build volume out here to move value higher? Because that would be bullish. Okay, this line's still important. Okay, if we fall below this again, that's not good. So that's really the question for today of what we could do. Okay, this is the overnight session, which is pretty large. Okay, price is right here. Right now we're at 37.89. Okay, so we're gapping higher right now. It's pretty wild, the market right now for the overnight, because we were just here before. And a very balanced session. Okay, with the most traded price right here of the overnight. Pretty balanced, but we're gapping higher. All this is bullish. Okay, this is a bullish sign because, like I said, we finished at the highs, the most traded price, which is bullish, and now we're gapping higher. And if we can stay above here and build volume out here, makes the move higher easier. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the Nasdaq here. Nasdaq, same story, right? Bull bear line right here. Once we came up and held above it with the news catalyst, we went up, finished at the highs. Okay. So the Nasdaq is weaker, okay, than the ES. Now above us we have this gap that has not been fully filled yet. Now in the overnight it went up to it and found sellers. No coincidence there. People know that's important level, but however, you don't fill gaps in the overnight or pre-market session. That has to happen in the real-time trading session. Okay, so that doesn't count. So we got our overnight highs, we got our overnight lows. Prices here at 113.98. Okay, very balanced session too. It's balanced. Okay, the longs have been liquidated, the shorts have been squeezed, so there's really not a lot to do here. Not a lot to do. Just saying that it's kind of balanced. Okay, I can't say which is going to happen because right now the most traded price is happening right in the middle of the session. So we have to see, right? But it's slightly gapping higher. Okay, because here's the highs and here's the price. Slight gap higher. Could change. Obviously, we don't open until 9:30. Okay, but let's look at that volume profile, composite profile on the right here, right? Very balanced. Look at that. Perfect bell curve, right? Bull bear line still important. Okay, that's the line in the sand still. Same thing here. Can we move higher here and start building volume here to bring this value higher, which would be bullish? Okay, if we can't do that, we're going to revisit here and then going to see if we can drop below it, which would then be bearish. Okay, all right, let's go over the hourly charts here, look at some levels. Just give me a sec. All right, let's go to the hour chart. All right, let's zoom it in for you guys. All right. So as we're speaking right now, I'm starting to see some of my levels here. I can add a level, so might as well do that while I'm on there with you guys. So I'm gonna add a resistance level I'm seeing already. So right here, this would be resistance. It's been coming up here. Okay, so we got one here, two here. It's been resistant. Okay, this was a level, but it's hasn't really. It was resistance, 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 and then it broke. So it just broke. Okay. I'm gonna keep that there to see. Just use it as a barometer to see if we fall back into range. So I'm gonna keep that there. Okay. So let's look at some levels. So obviously we have the 3801 as resistance. Okay. We have 3821 as resistance. We have a supply zone right here. Look, it came right in this supply zone and sold off. Okay. What do we have below us? We have 3740. That's support right here. Okay, support right here too, and resistance right here. So that's a key level. 3740 is a very key level because if we can go under this, fall back in the range, there's not going to be much support. We'll probably retest the bull bear line, 3690. Okay, this area right here could get tested again if we fall below 3740. All right. Now we could, now that we, sorry, the pattern obviously we're seeing here is a double top. One right here and one right here. Sometimes people say it's an M because if we come back down, that's an M and a double top, and sometimes people call that M for murder, obviously, which is murder's negative, and we can break this here and go down. So, I'm not saying that happens, just pointing it out. Okay, so bull bear line around this area, that's the key really line in the sand. But as far as the support level, that's more immediate, is 3740, 3801 resistance. Okay, all right, let's move over to the Nasdaq. Okay, so I'm going to add another resistance level in here, just like I did. Put it right here. See, this was also resistance, resistance, and then it got broken. So I'm actually probably going to remove this one. I like clean charts. So, all right. So for this, we have the gap. The zone is here and here. This is the gap. It needs to be filled in the RTH session, not in the overnight session. Okay. You can see we don't have that double top pattern because the Nasdaq is weaker. So you don't have that same pattern, but you have this support at 112.74. You have resistance at 114.49. Okay, got a supply zone up here. Came into, found sellers. Also because it's the top of the gap. Okay, so key resistance 114.49, key support 112.74. Now bull bear line, right? 11,100, I'd say is the exact number, but this is the range. Okay, for the bull bear line. Okay, we break 112.74 and we hold it. This short covering rally won't give much support, and we could find ourselves back here. And then, do we bounce or do we go back lower? Okay, that's what the Nasdaq's shaping up to be. Okay, and finally, let's go to the market profile so we can just look at these levels, get a little bit of a game plan, which I pretty much got you, but you can see better overnight activity, and I can see certain inflection points that I look at. So hold hold on a sec, guys. I'm just gonna copy some levels here, just so I have them because the levels have changed. Just give me 1 second here while I do this so I can clearly explain more of the levels here that I'm looking at. All right, let's move over to that market profile chart. Okay, so here's our bull bear line right here. That's the most important level on both these charts, right here and here, the Nasdaq and the ES. Okay, so we have a balanced session overnight. Like I said, that's going to be hard to read. There's not a lot of reads on this because it's very balanced. Okay, balanced is kind of more indecisive. All right, there's not, the longs and the shorts are kind of equal in the overnight session. Okay, so what can we really see here? It's very simple. Okay, today, remember, we made a big move on Friday. Sometimes in a big move, you need to digest the move the following days. Okay, maybe so this is really what I see. Very basic. Okay, we're gapping higher. The question is now, is the high here? Now, do we fill the gap? And do we bounce off it and we maybe can go higher, right? And go up to these overnight highs and test 38.20. Okay, so this gap is really whenever you're gapping higher, that's the question. Can we fill the gap? Maybe we don't fill it. Maybe we don't even come down to fill it, right? This is the big gauge when you're gapping. Is the gap close? Right here. Okay, that's what we have to look at. That's our barometer. This is the barometer. If it comes down to this level, which is the highs of Friday, that's kind of a line in the sand. Okay, for what could possibly happen. Because easily, if we fill the gap and go lower and start going back into range, obviously that's bearish. Okay, and if we also open and we don't even fill the gap and we start moving higher, that's bullish. And also, we could fill the gap but then bounce too. Just getting that out of the way. So that's our first sign of showing, letting the market tell us, are you strong or are you weak, right? So that's how I'm going to play my scenarios. Okay, and my scenario is basically going to be, okay, if we come down, fill the gap, and I'm going to give the first scenario. If you fill that gap and start moving lower and back into range, 37.40 is very key, because we're either going to bounce off of it or we're going to break it, hold it, come up to it, and fall back here, and then we can bounce off here or we fall lower. Okay, the bullish case, we can also come down, I feel, probably fill the gap, but then we bounce. Okay, and if we break 38.01 and come up 38.20, I'm not seeing us meteoric rise today, but we could, right? We could go higher. Okay, and thirdly, I can also see balance today. Okay, I can also see us come down, fill the gap, come up to here to the highs of the overnights, and kind of balance here and make more volume and bring value, try to bring value higher here. I can definitely see that too. Okay, and let's finally just move over to the Nasdaq. Very similar. Okay, but we have a very defined target here in this gap zone here. This gap hasn't been filled yet, so that's going to be very important. As well as we're kind of the gap is very small here, so that's not going to play much as a role as the ES is. Okay, because here's the high of Friday, and here's that high here, and here's price. So you're gapping, but it's so small that it's kind of insignificant. Now the ES might be insignificant too once we open. A lot of things can happen, but again, we have a balanced session, and we're right in the middle. Okay, so it doesn't really it really doesn't tell us. That's why I'm going to go off the levels that I just talked about before. Okay, so the key is this: do we come back into range? And if we do, this 112.74 level is going to be very key. Okay, because if you find support and we start going higher, then our this gap, the bottom of the gap, is going to come into play, and can we fill that gap? If we can, we're going to be in a supply zone, and we could go higher or we could fall back and balance out. Okay, because this is a very, this gaps are voids, and they usually get filled. So that could be the fill. Okay, and then in another scenario, we talked about this earlier. I think we can come up here, find resistance, come back down to this level, break it, come up, come down, and we go to this bull bear line, and we just kind of either balance or we go lower and visit the lows of Friday. Okay. Finally, what can we finally have? We could have go up, fill this gap, find sellers, come back down, balance. Right? You can come down, try to come break this level, can't, and find balance and build out volume here and try to bring the most traded price of the week up here. Okay, because we made a big move on Friday, and usually when you have big moves like that, you gotta digest it for a day or two. It doesn't mean it has to happen, it just means what it happens a lot of times. Okay, and we have a lot of things happening this week: earnings, and we have Janet Yellen speaking today, GDP numbers on Thursday. So we have to see. We have to see what the week brings us. Okay, that's it for me. Um, Leave me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I hope everybody has a green day today. And I will see you guys tomorrow.